fade out ever. But I'm Steve McCollum here with the Cardinals Rewind. It's a main event podcast, special podcast brought to you by the main event. Of course, focusing on the Arizona Cardinals, their previous game, and looking forward to this week's game, which, of course, last week the Cardinals went to Dallas, Monday Night Football, went in, dominated the Cowboys, came out 38-10 victory. Now they are 4-2 on the season. So if the season would have started today and you would have said the Cardinals started 4-2, but you didn't tell them who they beat and who they lost to, you would take that. But, you know, people are still angry. People think they should be 6-0. So, anyway. So they go into Dallas. Those of everybody watched the game, right? Monday Night Football. Exciting. They're never on national TV. Rarely. And it's been a while since they've been on Monday Night Football. And a lot went right for the Cardinals. But not a lot went right for the Cowboys. And not a lot went wrong for the Cardinals. But let's discuss the negativity anyway. Let's just get into it. Let's get this game over with. Dominating game. Everybody should be happy. I've heard some negativity, but there's no reason to be negative about this game at all. There's things to obviously wonder about, but you got to let some of them pass, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's go. We normally start with positives, but today we're going to start with the negatives because there aren't that many of them that you could really pick out of this game too much. You know, one negative I got is the whole first quarter. Whole first quarter. We all said last week and on the main event podcast on Monday morning, I had Chief Jason Carter from the 1580 morning show there, the producer, who came on and we discussed how it was going to be a high-scoring affair. Last week's main event, or Cardinals Rewind, I discussed how it was going to be a high-scoring affair. Defenses were bad. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. First quarter, man, punt city. So check out this sequence of, offensive deals by both teams. But obviously I'm calling this a negative for the Cardinals because you would have liked to see them put up points, right? First drive, 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. But then Dallas had 3 plays, 4 yards, punted. Then the Cardinals had 10 plays, 36 yards, right? Isn't that amazing how you have 10 plays and you only get 36 yards? It just weird. And one of those was a 15-yard Kyler Murray run on 1st and 10 there to make that up there. And then, this is where they punted. And then the Dallas had the ball, 3 plays, 4 yards, punted. Cardinals get the ball back, 3 plays, 3 yards, punted. And then this is where the game changed, right here at the end of the first quarter. Dallas gets the ball back, 6 plays, 35 yards. Of course, fumble number 1 on the night, right? Andy Dalton throws a short pass across the middle to Ezekiel Elliott. No gain, but he does fumble. Budda Baker hits him. Ball comes out. Recovered by Jordan Phillips of the Cardinals, which was good to see since he was at a funeral for his father before the game, the day before the game. So it was good to see him have a good game. Just a little side note there. And then the Cardinals get the ball back, and they didn't score the touchdown until the actual second quarter, 2 minutes or so into the second quarter. But it took the whole first quarter for the Cardinals offense to kind of wake up and get moving. Kind of a disappointment, kind of a negative. I'd like to see him start fast, as you guys know. Another negative, a lot of, like I said, same thing, a lot of 3 and outs in the first quarter. They did have that 10-play, 36-yarder, but basically 3 and outs. Not only 3 and outs, but 3 and do nothing and then out. 3 and 4 yards, 3 plays for 4 yards is not a productive outing at all on there. My other negative that I wrote down on this game, and I've gone back, I tried to find more negatives, to be honest with you. And I mean, you can nitpick, right? You can nitpick things that you saw. I'm not going to do that. It was a blowout, right? Cardinals had a lot of penalties there in the third and fourth quarter when they had the big lead. We'll talk about that when we get to penalties. But one negative I do have. The first time I'm really picking on him. I mean, he's had some bad games with his interceptions and stuff. But Kyler Murray was off the mark on this game. He was 9 completions, 24 attempts, 188 yards on the day. He had 2 touchdowns, but we're going to focus on the 9 for 24 here and the negative portion of the podcast. Granted, they got a big lead, and they didn't have to throw very much in the second half. and the running game really did take off, but only 9 completions on 24 attempts. You're not going to win too many games with that type of percent. By the way, a lot of his throws early in the game, when it was 0-0, first quarter, were off the mark. He overthrows guys. His mechanics are off just enough that he's missing open receivers. One example that really sticks out is when Larry Fitz was open in the end zone. I think this was in the third quarter, might have been the fourth quarter, and he overthrew an open Larry Fitzgerald in the end zone when it was easy to just drop that ball down in there. Quarterback has to make those throws. And imagine how important that throw would have been if the Cardinals were behind or fighting to come back or trying to extend their lead out. Now, granted, it was a blowout at that point, but missing open receivers like that should not happen at all. And missing them by a lot like he did. And there were other incidents, like I said, in the first quarter where he was just missing open guys. And, that could have been nerves at the beginning of the game because he was back in Texas, things like that. Who knows? But those mechanical issues where he's, throwing across his body, not stepping into the throws too much so that he's overthrowing guys, things like that. Just a negative. I'm not worried about it in this game. I haven't been worried about it before. I mean, it's caused problems in the past with some of those interceptions. But I'm not going to tell you it's the end of the world. They won the game. They won the game by a lot. It's fantastic. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on it this game. But just something that I'm keeping an eye on and watching, especially after, what was that, 2 weeks ago, last week, where we had that stat where he struggles to hit receivers in the short 10 to 15-yard range from the line of scrimmage. And you saw it in this game. Reared its ugly head in this game. But, like I said, blowout, nobody cares. Fine, we move on with our lives, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to move on with our lives. Positives. Yeah, you can go on for days and list positives. I went with some that I haven't heard other people talking about as much. You can go for days. You can talk about the offensive line blocking, just dominating the defensive line of the Cowboys. You could talk about, the defensive line, the safeties there doing a good job. We're going to talk about that a little bit here, but get specific. Budda Baker gets his first career interception. He caused, Ezekiel Elliott to fumble the ball one time, all with the cast on. He's literally a missile out there. He runs, he hits guys, he gets around them, and, puts pressure on the quarterback, hits the guys that catch the ball, he hits the running backs as they run across the field there. It's just fantastic to watch Budda Baker out there. And it is amazing how that game he missed and how well these guys rebound or these guys play when he's in there compared to when he was out for that one game. I believe that was the Panthers, if I remember correctly. The other thing is Dre Kirkpatrick. I call this one of the most spectacular plays I've seen. Now, granted, it's kind of a joke play, but it worked. Dre Kirkpatrick is covering his guy. Guy's running across the field. Dre Kirkpatrick proceeds to literally tackle him in the middle of the field and knocks him down. Keeps running, intercepts the ball on the sideline off of Andy Dalton. So he gets the interception. Refs didn't throw the flag. Horrible PI. Only thing I can think on why the refs didn't call that pass interference is because Dre Kirkpatrick kind of turned around and the receiver was there and they kind of collided. But I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's still a penalty. It is still a penalty. And it was for CeeDee Lamb, who the receiver was there. And, questionable call. But the thing I liked about it, and I kind of make fun of it on, is he got his interception. But then also he took the guy down and he just kept running the route and he intercepts the ball. I just found that fantastic. It was great to see on there. There's another positive. The secondary affected this game by a lot, got turnovers, made big plays, tackling and things like that. It was just great to see. Like the defensive line got to Andy Dalton. He got hit a lot. He was pressured a lot, had sacks in this game. Now, granted, the Cowboys' offensive line is atrocious. It is a walking mash unit right now. Doesn't matter. Still NFL football. You still have to do your job. Cardinals went out and did their job. On that defensive line, the front seven absolutely did a great job and it was very impressive. I was very impressed with it. I was just impressed with the all-around game plan here going to this game, especially on the defensive side, because we all thought the Cowboys were just going to score a ton of points. Now, granted, they're a different team than when Dak was in there, when they were the number one offense. They obviously weren't that offense last week, but Cardinals still have to go in there and dominate and play. And they went out there and they did it. Exciting to see. Again, I've been on this line, all the people saying that Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, needs to, be fired, et cetera, et cetera. I said it's too early for that. And this game shows why. He's actually a good defensive coordinator. They had some rough games there when a lot of injuries going on, but he can put a game plan together. And it's going to be tested again this week against the Seattle Seahawks when they come to town with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and that whole offense. So, I mean, no time to take a break if you're that Cardinals defense. No time to be feeling good about yourself. You obviously have a harder team to play this week than you had last week. Absolutely. So I'm still going to give them props when they do a good job when they do it. Running back showed up. Another positive. I mean, besides Kyler Murray going 10 carries for 74 yards, he got his running game back. The Cowboys, I said the Cowboys, between the receivers and that, who's going to be able to stop Kyler Murray from running last week? Nobody could. Still 10 carries, 74 yards. He did have one rushing touchdown. But, Kenyon Drake, the story was going into that game that his mom had a talk with him about running east-west. His mom said, you got to go north. You got to hit the holes. So mom came through, and that's exactly what Kenyon Drake did in this game. He came back as that running back. He said something, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said something like, hey, if mom's noticing at home that I'm not hitting the holes, it means it's pretty obvious. I'm dancing back there. And he showed himself. Now, granted, he did have the 160-yard run there. What was that? That was the fourth quarter, I believe. 60-yard run. Kenyon Drake went up the middle for 69 yards for the touchdown. That was there in the fourth quarter. It was the Cardinals' last touchdown to put them up 38-10. That was great. When was the last time you saw a Cardinals running back run for 60 yards on anything, right? So he goes out there, he does that. Total of 164 yards on the day off 20 carries, as I said. 2 touchdowns for Kenyon Drake. Chase Edmonds, he didn't have a lot, but he had 5 carries for 23 yards. But he had a couple runs there at the beginning of the game to extend that out and show some burst and give the Cowboys a different look out there as well. So I like the way that offense ran on Monday night a lot. They didn't get too cute on the play calling. They executed. The offensive line blocked unbelievably against that the Cowboys front seven, and the receivers showed up. And that's the other positive that I got. The other receivers showed up finally, right? DeAndre Hopkins has been dominating this. He's had the most targets. He had the most targets again. 8 targets this week. He only caught 2 of them for 73 yards. Obviously, you knew the Cowboys were going to try to keep Hopkins from getting the ball a lot. But the nice thing about it was Christian Kirk, 2 receptions, 86 yards off of 3 targets, 2 touchdowns. Basically, Christian Kirk, if you do the math there, and we all know that here at the Main Event podcast system, we are not math geniuses, but 2 receptions and 2 touchdowns, that means he scored a touchdown every time he touched the ball. Now, the nice thing about this one was you don't see this with the Cardinals. You haven't seen it all yet this year by any stretch. And you haven't seen, when was the last time you saw a Cardinals receiver catch a ball, run 80 yards, and get a touchdown? Now, granted, he ran a lot of that without the ball in his hands. It was a good throw by Kyler Murray. And Kirk made a great catch, leaning out for it, reaching for it. It wasn't the perfectly thrown ball. Reached out for it, got it, kept his balance, and went in for the 80-yard touchdown. Long time since we've seen that on the Cardinals' offensive side. We don't see it too often. Fantastic to see. Even Larry Fitzgerald kind of got into the action. Like I said, it just was horrible that Kyler Murray couldn't hit him on that third down there in the fourth quarter, I think it was. And it was when they kicked that field goal. Was that the fourth quarter? It might have been the third quarter. Nope, it was the beginning of the fourth quarter. I was trying to remember which one that was. But, he threw the ball way over Larry Fitzgerald's head when he was open in the end zone on 3rd and 7 at the Dallas 8. So the Cardinals had to settle for the field goal. But, Larry was a little bit more involved. And Larry came out this week and said he's fine with his role on the team. He knows that when he's required to step up, he'll be there for it. He's just waiting for his opportunity. Perfect. So, Christian Kirk stepped up in this game and limited opportunities. 24 pass attempts in the whole game. Normally the Cardinals are in the 30 pass range. So high 30s too. And you can see it was just limited opportunities, and Christian Kirk stepped up. Hopkins did what he does with 2 catches for 73 yards. Larry was only 3 for 22, but moved the sticks a little bit and drew some traffic on there. So I just enjoyed the whole offensive system. The offensive play calling was fun to watch. And then again, the defense. Fun to watch them dominate. Fun to watch them get back there, hit the quarterback, stop the receiver. I mean, the Dallas receivers were hanging their heads there at the beginning of that third quarter because they just weren't getting open against that Cardinals secondary. Zeke was benched at one point because he fumbled the ball. He was getting hit and couldn't hold on to the ball. Just fantastic game to watch. We don't see too many of those as Cardinals fans. So those are the positives and negatives this week. Like I said, we can list positives forever. I didn't want to go on for 45 minutes listing the positives. You guys all watched the game. Let me know what positives that you saw that you'd like to see continue on this team. Play calling, like I said, I was impressed with the play calling. Not a lot of cute plays that we saw earlier in the season. It was just downright football. Defensive side was see ball, get ball. Basic football. Basic football. They went and did it. So this week, I'd like to see him clean it up a little bit. Get some points at the beginning of the game. Don't go the whole first quarter with basically three plays and out, except for, like I said, the one drive and then after the fumble that went into the second quarter. We always talk about field goals on this podcast. Everybody that watches this, not a lot of field goal attempts when you're scoring touchdowns and only having 3 and outs in the first quarter. But they had 1 for 1 on the field goals. The nice thing, we always talk about it, how the Cardinals leave Zane Gonzalez with long field goals. And they didn't do it this time. Now, granted, it was after the interception. Cardinals intercept the ball, Andy Dalton. They were going 12 plays, 65 yards. They get an interception. Cardinals get the ball back. 9 plays. They go 82 yards. Again, this was the drive where he missed Larry Fitzgerald on 3rd down from the Dallas 8. They had to kick a field goal. It was just nice to see that they got the ball. They went far down the field. Yeah, they didn't get a touchdown, but they got the field goal for there. And it was nice to see them get far enough in where the field goal is basically a chip field goal. I love to see that. Like I said, I don't mind the long field goals, but when they were early in the season, when they were happening every single time, it was just something to watch, and we watched it. And we're seeing some improvements absolutely as the season goes on, where they're getting a little bit farther down, and they're not trying as many field goals right now because they are scoring more touchdowns, which is great. Time of possession is another thing we talk about in here. Obviously, this is the funny thing about stats, right? Is watching that game and the way it was dominated, you would think the Cardinals had more time of possession, right? You would think the Cardinals, at least, now Dallas had the ball a little bit because they were trying to get back into this game, but you would think the Cardinals would be pretty close to Dallas at least, if not have the ball more than them, right? Nope, not even close. Cardinals had 26 minutes and 23 seconds of playtime. So if those of you that can do math for a 60-minute game, 33 minutes and 37 seconds for the Cowboys. So they had the ball a lot. But the Cardinals were able to get turnovers in this game and cut those drives short, keep them from getting points, especially at the end of that first quarter when the game was very much in doubt still. Still had no idea what was going on. And the Cardinals were able to get those recoveries. Like I said, on the first fumble, they were 6 plays, 35 yards, 2 minutes and 41 seconds of drive time. Then their second fumble in the second quarter, that was quick. That was almost immediately. That was 2 plays and 3 yards. They only had the ball for 48 seconds. So it's not like the defense was out there for a long time early in this game. Matter of fact, the first time, I'll tell you right here, the first time that the Cardinals were on the field, their defense was on the field for a long drive, was halfway through the second quarter. 10 plays, 40 yards for the Cowboys. 5 minutes, 38-second drive time, and they punted the ball on 4th and 17. So that was with halfway through. So 5 minutes and 2 seconds left on the game clock in the second quarter is the first time when they punted it. So it was the first time. So they got the ball 10 minutes, so 5:38, like I said. So halfway through the second quarter was the first time the Cardinals defense were on the field for any amount of time other than a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes at a time. That's fantastic. Fantastic. And that's what you like to see. The Cowboys did have a long drive in the fourth quarter where they came back and they scored their only touchdown of the game to make it 31-10. But at that point, the game was so out of line and everything that I'm not gonna knock them for that at all or anything like that. One the other thing we talk about here is penalties. Cardinals 7 penalties. We should place bets on how many penalties and scores that the Cardinals get every week. 7 penalties, 43 yards. As I talked about, I'm not gonna. Last couple of weeks, the Cardinals have kind of been like the Jets game, and now this game. The Cardinals are kind of getting a pass for these penalties. You don't like to see them. I don't like to see penalties, but a lot of these penalties happened in the third and fourth quarter. They had the game wrapped up. I'm not going to get on them for it. It wasn't anything pressing in there. But for the love of God, guys, clean it up, right? We need to see them clean it up. This week, if they have 7 penalties for 43 yards, we're going to have a whole different conversation because they are going to be in different situations, and it's probably going to cost them this week. So I don't know. I don't know what you got to do. Just, put the turnover guy underneath the bed, let the turnover fairy come and get the thing so you don't turn the penalty thing under the pillow, and the penalty fairy comes and gets underneath the pillow and leaves a quarter or something, and so they don't have penalties. Is that how it works? I think that's how it works. No? Okay. Wouldn't hurt to try. It's better than what they're doing. Right? All right. Now that I've made everybody uncomfortable. So, one other thing we talk about on these games is we put a button on this shellacking the Cardinals had over the Dallas Cowboys, which the Cowboys are just a bad team, right? They're not Jets bad, but they're just a bad team. So, but it was great to see. I saw a lot of negativity from people that aren't Cardinals fans, that like other teams, that were like, oh, they haven't beaten anybody yet. Doesn't matter. You have to go out and you have to beat the teams that are on your schedule. Right? If they would have gone out in this game and struggled to beat the Cowboys, if they would have come in here and barely beat them or even lost to them, we'd be all disappointed because the Cardinals should have won this game. Cardinals should have dominated this game, scored a lot of points. I said it was going to be a high-scoring affair. I thought somebody was going to score in the 30s, and then somebody would be like 28 or something. Got one of them right. The other one not. The other team didn't show up, and they didn't play well. I'm not surprised by it. The other thing, and we always talk about that, I love, 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 love. We always talk about this. I need to make a graphic that's like love and hearts come off of me. It'd be fantastic. Can't move very fast, so the background gets all scurry like that. Looks kind of creepy. I love, 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 love. When you get turnovers, you go down and score. Obviously, first quarter, Zeke fumbles it. Cardinals do what? Go down and score their first touchdown of the game right early in the second quarter. 7-0 Cardinals. Then they kick off again. Zeke fumbles it again. Cardinals do what? 5 plays, 27 yards, touchdown. Go and get another touchdown. Then this is the drive where the Cowboys went 10 plays, 40 yards. What happens? Cardinals get the ball back. 1 play, 80 yards. You want to punt to us? Fine. We're going to do 1 play, 80 yards down the field to Christian Kirk. We're going to score again, 21-0. So that punt isn't necessarily a turnover in the traditional sense, but you got them to punt the ball and you capitalized on it. Fantastic, right? Third quarter, Cowboys throw the interception. Andy Dalton throws the interception. Cardinals go down, score a touchdown. 9 plays, 73 yards, touchdown, 28-3. The only time they didn't really do it was when the Cowboys missed that was a long field goal too. Missed field goal. That was a 58-yard field goal attempt for Greg Zuerlein for the Cowboys. I don't know why you even try that. I mean, who do they think they are? The Cardinals leaving long field goal kicks? Come on, man. So only time they didn't score after a turnover, because I count those as turnovers on there. The Cardinals got the ball, 6 play, 5 yards, and punted it. But then Cardinals get the ball back, get an interception from Andy Dalton again, go down, 9 plays, 82 yards. This is the one where he missed Fitz in the end zone. They score a field goal at least. So at least they got points on a turnover. Love that in football. There's nothing better than that. That's what you're supposed to do. You reward your defense by getting a turnover by going down and scoring points. Any kind of points. Prefer touchdowns, but you'll take field goals. Then the Cowboys go down and score a touchdown. Make it 31-10. What do the Cardinals do? Get the ball back. 3 plays, 75 yards. This is the big Kenyon Drake up the middle for 69 yards. Touchdown again by the Cardinals. Fantastic. It's almost like football's easy. Do this every week. You'll win games. If only it was that easy, right? So that's a Monday Night Football game. It was great too because it was a Monday Night Football game. So there was a spotlight was on the Cardinals and they performed so well in that spotlight. Like I said, I'm not going to harp on the negative of Kyler Murray, 9 for 24. Like to see that percentage obviously a little higher. Like to see him not miss open receivers like he does from time to time. This week, especially against the Seahawks, you're going to need those more percentage points hitting those routes and the receivers. A lot more consistency to keep drives alive this week. Although the Seattle Seahawks defense is worse, which we're going to get into in just a minute. We got some news breaking this week. I actually was shocked to see this and kind of glad. I was going to record this early this morning on Friday. I was waiting for the injury reports to come out because D-Hop hasn't been practicing. Some other Cardinals haven't. So I was waiting for practice, say, on Friday to record this. And then pop, boom. Chandler Jones is out for the season, as we all know. Cardinals go out. He played last night for the Giants, which means he's not going to play this week. He can't play because he already played Thursday. He can't play in the same week. Then he's got to pass the 6-day COVID window, stuff like that. But the Giants agreed to trade Marcus Golden back to the Cardinals for a 6th-round pick. Those of you that have been Cardinals fans for a while know Marcus Golden was a fantastic player here. Great locker room guy. Only giving up a 6th-round pick to get him back here. He's going to give you added pressure on the front 7 there. Absolutely. He's a good locker room guy. Everybody tends to like him. Was a 2nd-round pick for the Cardinals. And he's going to come in and going to be able to help the pass rush. Again, he's out this weekend, but just good news for the Cardinals. Getting a guy in here to help replace Chandler Jones' production. And be great to see Marcus Golden back in the Cardinals uniform. Looking forward to that. So, again this week, Seahawks, the 5-0 Seattle Seahawks are coming to Glendale. Sunday Night Football now. They flexed this game into Sunday Night Football due to some sickness issues with the Oakland Raiders. So they moved the Buccaneers-Raiders game out and put the Cardinals game, Seahawks game into that Sunday Night Football slot. So we do have to wait a few more hours to see this game. Fantastic. Looking even more forward to it, right? So, I'm so out of breath looking forward to this game. Like, this is the first game where I'm like, oh, this is the game to look forward to, right? Here's an interesting stat. Now, they're not going to play each other because they're both offensive players, but just a quick little stat. Mike Jurecki tweeted out earlier this week. Of course, he works for the Cardinals and does I should probably know the name of his podcast before I say it, but they do the Cards Cover 2 podcast. Which is great to watch. Him and I believe Craig Grialou. It's a great Cardinals podcast to listen to. After this one, of course. Right? Enough said there. But he tweets out DeAndre Hopkins and DK Metcalf, who's the Seattle's best second-year receiver, are the NFL's top players in receiving yards per game this season. Hopkins has 100.2 receiving yards. DK Metcalf has 99.2 receiving yards per game. Average. So we have our star right receiver. They have their star receiver. And it's a match. Like I said, they're not going, they're not going against each other. So you're not really comparing them that route. You're comparing them more in terms of two great receivers on the field for this game. Just a little stat I like to throw out there for you. Notable Seattle injuries. On the Seattle offensive line, Mike Lupati, who was with Seattle, played for the Cardinals for a few years, and now back with Seattle again. Still a good offensive lineman, getting up there in age, but he's questionable for this game. So if he is not able to go, they have to go down a level to another offensive lineman for this defensive line. Hopefully, can exploit. The problem is with Russell Wilson, we're going to see what we all hope Kyler Murray is in a few years as he grows this weekend in Russell Wilson. Cardinals fans that have followed this series knows what Russell Wilson can do. How many times have we seen him almost be sacked, have arms wrapped around him, he's going to the ground, and he throws the ball 40 yards down the field for a completion? It happens. It's what Russell Wilson does. And good luck to Vance Joseph figuring out how to play him this weekend, right? Jamal Adams was declared out today for the secondary for the Seahawks, so that hurts an already bad Seattle defense. With Jamal Adams out, he's fantastic safety there, injury prone, and I saw earlier today that the Seahawks ruled him out for this Sunday's game, so that helps the Cardinals on the offensive side as well. Now, this time of year is when the injury report gets, huge for practice-wise, who practiced, who didn't practice, and things like that. It's amazing how big this list gets, right? So I'll read the names here. Kevin Beachum, ankle, did not practice today. Kylie Fitz has a hamstring, of course, special teamer. Dennis Gardeck, who's had 2 great games now, right? He got to Andy Dalton last week and got some pressure on him, and did not have a bad game. 1 tackle last week for Gardeck. Got some pressures in there. I saw him there in the backfield a few times. Fantastic, right? To see him in there. He's out. He was limited in practice with the foot. He's going to play. Hopkins hasn't practiced all week. That ankle is still bothering him, but he doesn't practice because those veteran days. So he was limited today at practice, but he did not practice the rest of the week. He's questionable for the game. He's going to play. Dre Kirkpatrick, of course, is still dealing with his foot injury. He hasn't practiced all week. He was limited today. He's going to play this weekend. Jordan Phillips, foot injury, did not practice all week. Questionable for this game this week. Might just be a Veterans Day off, even though he's injured. And then, of course, Budda Baker and Jordan Hicks have been back with their thumb and wrist injuries. They have been back. They have been practicing. So, of course, they'll be in there. Now, like I said, for the Seahawks, those are the 2 big names I mentioned with Lopati and Adams. Will Dissly has been practicing this week with an Achilles injury. We know how much Will Dissly burned the Cardinals last week in their first game matchup. Last year when the Cardinals struggled with the tight ends last year. Carlos Hyde, the running back for the Seattle Seahawks, is back and practicing this week. Tyler Lockett has been practicing. So he's supposed to be in there. Of course, like I said, DK Metcalf is the star receiver, and Patrick Peterson is going to have a heck of a game trying to keep DK Metcalf from getting some large runs and some large plays. So, looks like the only one that I'm worried about playing this weekend would be Jordan Phillips. I was reading earlier he's still expected to play with his foot injury, but of course probably will be a game time decision leading into that. So, but Kennard's back in there, obviously, and playing, and all of that good stuff. So this one's hard to handicap. I said on Wednesday night's radio show on 1580 The Fanatic that this game's hard to pick. I've been to these games. Those of you know that have season tickets, right? I've been to these games. I've seen this. I sat through the 6-6 tie over overtime where they missed like 9 field goals, right? I've been to the games where fairly high-scoring games, and like I said, Russell Wilson gets out of a sack and throws the ball 30 yards down the field and breaks your heart because they go down to score, and that he does his magical thing that Russell Wilson always does it against the Cardinals. Sunday Night Football. The other thing that kind of messes this up, Cardinals had a short week this week, right? They played Monday Night Football. Monday night in Dallas, had to fly back, getting ready for this game. Seahawks are coming off a bye. They've had a lot more time, obviously, to get ready for this game. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I know that at least in the last 4 years, I think the Seahawks are 4-0 coming off a bye, which that can be misleading because if you're coming off a bye and you play a bad team, type of a thing. So that can be misleading. I didn't dig into that stat. The other thing about this series is the team that plays at home usually does not win. So Seattle has won like the last 6 in Arizona. And then Arizona has won a bunch up there in Seattle. All these factors together kind of mixes your mind. It's a heated rivalry. Both teams play hard with each other. It's generally not a huge blowout by any stretch. There's been a few of those, but generally it's not a huge blowout. Seattle's defense is god-awful. They're ranked 24th in the league on defense. Their offense ranked 22nd. Their offense is better than what it leads on to, though. Their running game, they're with Russell Wilson play. He's MVP candidate this year. Absolutely. He is nobody to mess around with. Nobody to think he isn't going to go out there and have a good game. He's nobody to think that you have him wrapped up and he's going to get out of it. You have all those things. It's almost like, I'm in shock over here because he's going. But, I mean, the key matchups this weekend is Arizona. Is Kyler Murray's against Seattle's entire defense, right? Cardinals have a number of weapons to worry about on their offense. And, you have Kenyon Drake, who's coming off the huge Monday night game. You have Hopkins, who's the league's leading receiver. You've got – so where's the weak link if you were Seattle and you were going against the Cardinals offense? You'd want to shut down Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray did show in a couple of those games, especially when they lost those two, but in another game, where if you hold him in the pocket and don't let him scramble out, he struggles. That's the struggle there. Can Kyler get out and run when he's able to? If the Seattle gives him the chance to run, will he be able to get out there and do it to get that offensive game getting going? Huge, huge question mark. Something to watch in this game. Then you got the other side of it. Seattle's obviously DK Metcalf. We talked about that against Patrick Peterson on there. Patrick Peterson's not the cornerback he was 5 years ago, right? And DK Metcalf is only 5 games into year 2 because they had a bye, so that's why they're only 5-0. And this kid's a stud. He's fast. He can get open. He can catch anything you throw near him. There's going to have to be a huge outing by the secondary to keep DK Metcalf in line. You're probably not going to be able to stop him. You're just hoping to keep him down as much as you can. And nothing huge, right? No huge gains. So we'll see. That's a huge matchup. The red zone is going to be huge in this game. Seahawks have converted 16 of their 18 red zone trips into touchdowns, which is the highest mark in the league. They've done it the most in the league. Guess who number 2 is on that list? If you don't say Arizona Cardinals, you're not listening to the right podcast. You're confused who you're listening to. Of course, number 2 on that list is Arizona Cardinals. They've scored 16 of 20 red zone trips this year. So both of these guys score in the red zone. They get in there. Which defense can stop the other team from scoring in the red zone? The difference is Russell Wilson's arm, his throwing the ball, has been a large reason for Seattle's red zone success. He has 19 touchdown passes. 13 of them are in the red zone for Russell Wilson. Cardinals, however, can pass and run the ball. Murray has scored 4 of his 6 rushing touchdowns from the red zone inside the 20, for those of you that aren't familiar with the phrase. Including, of course, a bunch of short runs, right? They've also thrown a bunch in there as well. Kenyon Drake has scored a few. Fantastic. This is going to be a fantastic. Whoever gets in the red zone, what defense can stop the other offense there to go? Cardinals defense is better than the Seattle defense. Can they play as well as they did Monday night in Dallas? Tougher matchup on the offensive side. You're going to see Seattle, I'm expecting to move the ball a lot more, obviously, than Dallas did. Right? Arizona's defense ranked 2nd in scoring this season, by the way. Yeah, you heard that right. Basically means the Cardinals have allowed touchdowns on 41.7% of their opponents' trips to the red zone. 2nd lowest in the league. Basically, you get into the red zone, you don't get a touchdown as often. It's harder to get a touchdown against the Cardinals than anything else. So Seattle allows touchdowns on 64.7% of red zone times the other team gets in the red zone. Both teams can stop the other side as well. So this is what I'm talking about. This is just a big conundrum, right? Where do you go on this? Obviously, I already gave my pick on Wednesday night's show when we do the 5-game pick-em for everybody. And I'm going Cardinals in this game. Cardinals are playing really well right now. Seattle off the bye. Home game, different atmosphere. 1,200 fans are going to be in there. well, 400 fans and 700 players, families, and coaches' families, stuff like that is the word that came out. That's not going to really matter. But at home, off the bye, Cardinals offense is much improved from last year compared to what it was this year, or from what it was last year. Did I say that backwards? They're better this year than they were last year. There we go. I think Cardinals are going to squeak this one out. It is going to be a high-scoring affair. I'm going with high-scoring affair 2 weeks in a row. And not only that, I think this game is going to be more. If you go back and watch my Dallas one last week, Dallas Cardinals Rewind, I think this game I'm expecting that game this week also. Meaning high scoring, long drives by these teams, some big plays that happen. It's just going to be back and forth. It's going to be which defense can make a stop to keep the other team out of the end zone more than the other team. Cardinals are going to win this game. I got like a 38-27 type of a, 32-27 type of a vibe for this game, which means it's going to be 3-0. Somebody's going to win 3-0. Zane Gonzalez is going to kick a 60-yard field goal to win it 3-0. So let's go, man. I'm excited. This game being Sunday night now instead of during the day, another high-profile night on the Cardinals. Win or lose, these games, just show up, man. Play your hearts out. Keep the game close. Even if you're losing, man, get in there. Make some strides. So even if you lose, no shame in losing to Seattle. Just go out there and play your game, though. Obviously, the goal is to win, but go out there, play your game. Play a solid game. If they're better than you, they're better than you. But go out there, play hard, keep Russell Wilson as much in check as you can. He's going to do something spectacular at some point. He's going to do something that you're just going to go, how did he do that? It's just what's going to happen. Don't get down on defense. Vance Joseph needs to dial something up like he did against the Cowboys. Cardinals, I'm hoping gets this victory this week. 4-2 Cardinals, 5-0 Seahawks. Sunday Night Football. I think kickoff is at 5:20 p.m. Should be a great game. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I was actually commenting that, glad I moved to Sunday night since I'm not going to be there because I can get everything else done on Sunday and concentrate on the game Sunday night. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I got laundry to get done. Got to do my hair. Anyway, guys, of course, you can reach out at the Main Event Podcast. You get the show notes. Obviously, you got the Facebook Live. You can watch it on Twitter Live as well. Or Periscope, which is on Twitter. Of course, put it up in the podcast format as well on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all your podcast systems. We're working on getting on a few more of them now as we go. So definitely many ways to listen. So pay attention. Give me your predictions for this weekend as well. Comment your predictions on there so we can take notes of them. We got a bunch of them last week, and everybody last week that was giving it to me. Some of them gave it to me on YouTube. Some of them gave it to me on Facebook. Everybody was picking the Cowboys. I didn't talk very much crap. I didn't say anything back. I was just like, all right. After the game, I was like, all right. Cool. So let's see what happens this week, right? Go Cardinals, of course, at SMAC500 is the personal page, at the Main Event Pod. Give us a follow there for stories. And leading up to the game, any news that breaks will be on there as well. We'll see you all next week.